Hello, I'm Tom with California Carnivores. I don't think we've met before, but I thought I would give you a rundown of how we bare root Sarracenia. Now, at California Carnivores, we highly recommend that you bare root your Sarracenia in late autumn and winter time. And this is because the plants are dormant. Now, the reason that you do it during the dormancy and not during active growth is because you want to avoid sending the plant into shock. After you've divided them and you've repotted it and stripped the roots of all the soil, they're in an immense amount of stress. So you really want to mitigate that as much as possible, and dormancy is the best time to do it. So let's get started. So Damon always likes to say we worship at the altar of the tag, and we do. Hold on to your tags. Gingerly, but deliberately, pull it out of the pot. You can see this is a little bit of a rat's nest. These are not Sarracenia roots. These are the roots of weeds that I've already pulled out. But what I like to do is submerge it and kind of wriggle my hands in the peat, and that breaks up the roots and dissolves the peat moss. Makes it a little easier. Some people like to take the hose and they spray out the root ball. You can do that too, but I find this is a little bit more gentle, and when you have a big mass of them, which I don't have for you today, it goes a lot faster. And so you can see the difference between Sarracenia roots. It's a lot more woody, and these weed roots, which we don't want. Something that's a little bit controversial that we do just because we have so many plants to go through is we trim off the old pitchers early, and sometimes we even cut the phyllodia off. I'll give you a demonstration of that. There's no exact science to this, but we prefer, especially when doing it en masse, to get everything off because it makes it cleaner and easier to divide. Now, it might seem kind of drastic to have removed all of that green growth, but because we're going to be dividing each of these growth points off of the main rhizome mat, it's going to reduce the amount of roots that it has to pull moisture and other nutrients up to the leaves and phyllodia. So by cutting them off, we've minimized the amount of energy that it has to expend, keeping all of this alive and just keeping the rhizome alive. All right, so as far as dividing goes, a clean, sanitized pair of scissors is the best way to go. It ensures that the cut is clean, it ensures that there's less bruising. But here at the nursery, we've been doing this quite a long time, and we know how to feel and wiggle the rhizomes apart from each other. So I'll demonstrate that for you. Putting your fingers in there, very gingerly, but deliberately and firmly, kind of want to knuckle off a piece. And you see, if I clean that off for you, you can pull these scales off. That it's not the cleanest break in the world, but it's not too messy either. So here's an example of how we would cut it with scissors. We'd look for a area of the rhizome where we can separate it fairly easily. And it's okay if you chop a couple roots in the process. Sliding the scissors in there and plop. Now, that's a cleaner break, but if you notice from the hand pulling, it's just about the same amount of damage. And most of that is going to callus over anyways. There'll be about 3 or 4 centimeters of dead tissue if this heals successfully. So the cleanness of the break isn't always as important. Just making sure that it's deliberate, not mashed. The less bruised tissue, the better. I'd like to show you a mistake that a lot of people make when they're dividing their Sarracenia rhizomes, and that is removing the scales. It's good practice to remove the scales. You just gently tug back and forth. But something that I'll demonstrate for you is when people remove too many of the scales, exposing the rhizome completely. Now, it's not the end of the world. You can put a little bit of sphagnum moss or just bury it appropriately. But when you expose so much of the rhizome with no scales to protect it, not only are you opening it up to frost damage, but it can also sunburn. All that white and pale colored tissue has very little pigments in it. So if that gets hit with the sun or hit with the frost, you're likely to get some damage there. So sometimes it's good to have a couple scales just to cover that up. But like I said, not the end of the world if you remove too many. You can just put some sphagnum moss right on top. There is a bare root rhizome division of Sarracenia flava.